Hello everybody, and welcome to the Rebooted Reviews! Today, I will be going over set number 70791, Skull Warrior. This set contains 102 pieces. I'm not sure if the extra ammo is included in the parts count. It probably is, considering it was actually shown in the instructions. Let's do what I came here to do, and that's do a review. The color scheme consists mainly of silver, light blue, translucent neon reddish orange, and a bit of gunmetal in some places. Very consistent, and I quite like it. I'm pretty sure Skullbasher's character profile mentions about Skullgrinder's dark power courses through his bones, and so that gave me the idea that all these trans-orange pieces represent Skullgrinder's power coursing through the bodies of the warriors and the Scorpios and Slicer and Basher. The color scheme does have a few breaks. For instance, if you think the trans-orange is obtrusive, if you think the yellow is obtrusive, right here, as well as right here, and both blue pins and red axles here, as well as 2 beige pins. Looking at the build, it's pretty solid. It's kind of basic, but I like it. It's effective. On the legs, he uses a bone and then a translucent bone, but on this side, he flips it around and he does transparent and then a bone. It's kind of nice. It's almost like the blue is what's left of his flesh clinging to his bones or something. He uses the protector feet in silver, and he has 2 toes made out of the Hero Factory claw, not the Skull Spider one. And it affords him some extra balance. The claws, of course, do make contact with the ground. At first I thought they were unnecessary when I saw the first images of the set, but having it in person seems like a pretty good idea. Plus, on the box, it does depict several Skull Warriors on here. The animation depicted the Skull Warriors on top of the city gate as well. So it makes sense, because you'd have to have these toes to cling to wherever you are while you're shooting your bow. Speaking of the bow, it's a variant of the Protector of Jungle's bow, at least a little bit, because if you look at the Protector of Jungle's bow, it's kind of small and well suited to Vizuna's needs. It's just the right size for his body, while with Skull Warrior, it's much longer. Rather than using blue pins, they use the tan ones to afford more easy movement, and they attached it differently, having it more like that, whereas with the Protector of Jungle, the profile was like that. See the difference? Vertical, horizontal. Now with this bow, at first I thought some of these modifications were kind of useless, like this one, but they're actually pretty practical, because it has 2 points of movement, one here for where it attaches to the hand, and one here where that section attaches to the bow. Now this allows for a lot of movement in posing, unlike the Protector's bow, which, while it does allow a lot of movement and posing, considering both sets use open ball joints, so it definitely allows for a lot of posing, just as much, maybe more than Vizuna's bow. And I think I pretty much covered it. There are a few differences with the gearbox, considering it has a longer than normal, and it's been extended by adding on one of these pieces, as well as a red pin, and just sticking the gear on that way, like so. Pretty good idea, especially when you have the bow mounted on the back. And speaking of things being mounted on the back, he does have a spear. If your enemy gets closer, you can use this rather than the frost bow to effectively deal with them, and it's also capable of pulling off masks, but we'll get to both the back attachment the mask pulling, the gearbox, and the bow functions all later. So, without further ado, let's go over all those good old new molds and recolors. So, let's start off with the recolors. First off, this is the smallest variety of torso in silver. There is the eye stalk in translucent neon reddish orange. Now we have three colors. The slightly drained golden mask of ice in half gold and half translucent, light translucent blue. This is very nice. The colors blend together very well. And the Gatling gun in a nice shade of translucent light blue. And I have to say, this is one of the best looking pieces I've seen in translucent light blue. Almost as good as the bone pieces and that ribcage piece right there. Now the thing that slots into it is recolored in gray, which is very good. It doesn't break up the color scheme like the yellow one. The print is new and it's exclusive, so get a good look at that as the camera unfocuses. Awesome. Now on to the new pieces. First up is the hook blade. You're supposed to be able to pull off somebody's mask. That's why it's all ridged and spiky. Agent D actually said that reminds her of an Anika sword. And I actually kind of agree with these designs running across the length of the blade. Now the new ribcage piece in, again, translucent light blue. This is such an awesome color. I really like this one. It's pretty great. We have the new armor attachments, which are kind of like the bulbous ones from Hero Factory, except more creepy and spiky and deadly. The set comes with 2 of them. Now there's also 5 of these bone pieces. They're the size of the largest bone piece that has no pinholes. Let's get 5 of these. And finally, Skull Warrior's mask in gunmetal. Now this will be reused on Skull Grinder in silver. But this is a very nice mask. It's kinda small, but it's very detailed. Good for like a Terminator mock or something, I guess. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get on with the review. Now, Skull Warrior features a number of functions, quite a lot more than some of the other Skull villains. Now, the first function is probably the most obvious, but in order to get to that one, first we have to detach the bow from his hands, like so, because this pin got stuck to his hand. So now that you've detached the entire bow, what you need to do is detach his melee weapons and take off this piece in the middle, so that way it's now split into 2 pieces, and you just put it in his hand. Now what you do with the bow is you take out this entire thing, so that way it leaves that like that, and you just stick that onto his back, like so. And now he can use the gear function. But what you need to do is just pretty standard stuff. The bow does kind of want to flop a bit, but you just gotta try and deal. You just turn the gear and it just goes like that. It's kind of irritating that the bow keeps trying to come back down. I don't really have a fix for that. It's just gravity. You can't change physics. Function works pretty good. The arm does flop a little bit. What you can do with the extra pieces is you can just take this and put it on the end of his spear. And this, I guess you could put it right in here, like that. Because there are plenty of places to stick those on his person. And speaking of persons, I should mention that the Skull Warriors are a swarm enemy, meaning that this guy isn't a unique character. There's not just one, if you haven't noticed already and you haven't watched the animations. There are multiple of these guys running around hunting the Toa. Speaking of the Toa, should he come across POWAAH here, he can use his hook blade to grab POWAAH's mask. There we go. And drain its elemental power by putting it on. Now, the proportions for the Skull Warriors and POWAAH, it's kind of funny, because POWAAH is pretty tall and pretty well armored, while these guys are kind of skimpy, being skeletons, and he would have to either jump or be standing on a tall thing in order to be able to grab POWAAH's mask. Although I suppose you could just take the spear and put it like it was on his back, and put it in his hand, and use it more like a pole arm or something, and grab the mask. POWAAH can, of course, get his mask back by launching off the mask and putting the fully gold one back on. But enough about POWAAH. Back to Skull Warrior. Now, among Skull Warrior's function, one of the most prominently displayed ones was the bow's shooting function. Now, of course, you gotta put this back on his back and put the bow back in his hands. And let's see if I can do this without losing any pieces. Also, judging from the animations, this is not a mask. This is his actual skull. Like, this is where his face used to be when he was still alive. Because the Skull villains don't take off this piece when they go to put on a mask, except for Skull Scorpio. He took off his mask because that was pretty clearly not his skull or his face. Just keeping that in mind despite what the product descriptions say. Okay, you can just turn this, which luckily doesn't move when I turn this, and you can fire off the studs and hope that you don't lose them. There we go. Only one launched off into the distance. It feels almost like it shoots more effectively and more predictably than the Wave 1 blasters did, or Gatling guns or whatever. Might be the solid ammo. And speaking of the solid ammo, I kind of like the solid ammo more than the trans ammo, because one, it's easier to find, and two, for some reason it feels more satisfying when you shoot it off, because it's more tangible. How do you guys feel about this set? Is it good? Bad? Kinda eh. I personally really like it. I might be getting more of these guys, both for parts and just because, I don't know, it's a cool set. And to have like a little army of these guys. Thank you for watching. Like or dislike, constructive criticism down in the comments. Share with all your friends. Probably shouldn't share it with your enemies. And why not subscribe to watch more of my reviews and our content. Also, be sure to join the legendary MOCists. It's a great community. I'm a moderator there. And I hope to see you guys next time when I go over 70792 Skull Slicer. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you then.